So, a great evening to everyone present here. I'm Aditi Bubli and I welcome you all to this webinar on metallic cluster and its application in solar cells and optoelectronics, which is organized by DG Saksham. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Prabhat Ranjan sir, who will be guiding us today. Talking about the event, this event is organized by DG Saksham. DG Saksham is another initiative of SEMS Welfare Foundation and has developed content for over 300 courses in multiple languages, which range from 4 hours to 6 months in various sectors of IT, BFSI, retail, and entrepreneurship for all age groups from school children, youth, professional, and senior citizens with over 6,000 training to date. Our main body, that is SEMS Welfare Foundation, is a professional, not for profit company and has recognition as the Best Service Award for significant national contribution from ITS education groups. SEMS Group has also organized more than 100 education and basic healthcare camps for underprivileged children. Moving further, this webinar is mainly focused on metallic cluster and its application in solar cell. Study found that metallic nanoalloy clusters such as copper, gold, silver have interesting physical as well as chemical properties as their energy gap is in the range of materials suitable for solar cells. Theoretical and computational studies are nowadays running parallelly with experimental studies. As experimental studies and characterizations at nanoscale is very much time consuming and it includes very high cost, computational studies offer a great deal to researchers to obtain accurate result in a short span of time, and it is economical also. We'll get idea about importance of computational sciences and its application in material science in this webinar. So let's grab more information about this. To enlighten us on this amazing topic, we have Dr. Prabhat Ranjan sir with us. He is currently working as an assistant professor selection grade department of mechatronics engineering at Manipal University, Jaipur. He has completed his Bachelor of Technology in Electronics and Communication Engineering and Masters of Technology in Instrumentations Control System Engineering from Institution of Eminence, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Manipal in 2009 and 2011 respectively. In the year 2018, he is awarded with PhD in Electronic Engineering from Manipal University, Jaipur. He has published more than 20 journal papers in international peer-reviewed journal and also editor of various research-oriented books published by Apple Academic Press, CRC Press, Taylor and M. Francis Group. He has authored more than 30 book chapters in high and research edited books. Dr. Ranjan has received President Award 2040 and President Gold Medal for Excellence in Research Award 2019 at MUJ for his contribution towards university development and research. He has also received Material Design Scholarship 2014 from Imperial College of London, DAAD Fellowship 2014, University of Oldenburg, Germany, and CFCAM IILD France Fellowship 2015 from University of Orsay, France for his contribution in the domain of material science and computational science. Now, I request Dr. Prabhat Ranjan sir to guide us on this topic. All to you, sir.
Thank you, Aditi. So, first of all, I welcome each one of you present here. So, topic for today is metallic clusters and its applications in solar cells and optoelectronics. So, currently I am associated with Manipal University, Jaipur, in the Department of Mechatronics Engineering. So, first I would like to introduce that what is metallic clusters, or you can say why this topic is very important in current scenario. So nowadays you might have heard about nano system, nano devices. We are reducing or making system more complex. So why it is necessary? Can anybody answer? Because my session will be completely interactive session. So I would like to interact more and more. at a certain duration. Okay, so can anybody answer that why we are going for a reduction of systems? We are reducing the size in terms of dimension, right? And mainly we are focusing right now in current scenario at a nano device or nano scale. You might have heard about nano fabrication or nano MEMS devices. Can anybody answer why we are focusing on nano scale?
Sir, may I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, nanotechnology, sir, nano product is one type of products where many information is we input in a small area, and
Yeah.
it is easy to carry, and our nanotechnology is most important in today's life for
Okay.
electronics things and etc.
Okay, very good.
That's it, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Anybody
sir.
else? Anybody else would like to say anything on nano system? Okay, so first thing is we are reducing size because it's easy to carry. Information can be stored in a small chip, right? Or you can say that integrated circuit, we say IC, right? So more and more information can be put in a small chip, right? And that information is huge. We do not have to carry every time with us like a computer or any kind of hardware device, right? A small device, if suppose I have like a hard disk, a small hard disk or a small pen drive, that will be helpful to carry the information, large information, right? Now the question is, when we are reducing the size, right, when we are reducing the size of the system, what benefit I will get? So if you will see the volume and surface ratio, when we are doing for the fabrication or at the nano scale fabrication, so it means we are reducing the size. We are reducing the size in terms of the volume, or you can say the dimension is getting reduced with respect to the surface and volume ratio. So when we are reducing the surface and volume ratio, complexity of the system will be very high, and it is very difficult to control the charge carriers at that particular moment when surface and volume ratio will be high. But at the same time, it has been seen that when we are reducing the surface and volume ratio, so efficiency of the system will become very, very high. So that is why we are going for nano scale, because when we are reducing the surface and volume ratio, efficiency, or you can say the response of the system is very, very high. So that is the important parameter here. Otherwise, if suppose surface and volume ratio if will reduce and efficiency of the system will not high, it means there is no meaning. So that is a very important part, that when we are reducing the surface and volume ratio, efficiency of the system offering by the device is very, very high, and it is very much, you can say, useful for energy storage or any kind of electronic, either it is display or it is for a storing or it is for optoelectronics. It is very, very useful. So that is why we are reducing the size. Mainly, now we'll discuss about the clusters, or you can say the nanoparticles. So when we are talking about the cluster, so cluster is nothing but when we are mixing the compound in terms of few or many millions of atoms, that is known as clusters, right? For two, if suppose we are mixing two metallic clusters, so that is known as bimetallic. If we are going for tri, so that is known as trimetallic. If we are going for multi, so that is known as multimetallic cluster. So the properties of the clusters is actually governed by, you can say, the periodicity, and it largely depend on their size and shape. So when we are mixing one molecule with another molecule or one system with another system in terms of metals, So it provide a new system, or you can say, all of you have heard about the doping process, right? So in the doping process also, what we do is we do doping of like silicon or germanium, right? So external parameters we add, like we have pure silicon or pure germanium. So pure silicon on pure germanium is not very useful. So we mix some other metals or some other system to make it more robust, so that we can govern the physical as well as chemical property of that particular system. So similar kind of thing we do here also, because pure metallic clusters do not offer that amount of, you can say, efficiency, right? So clusters constitute new material which have property which will be distinct for discrete molecule or bulk, and these properties are very much important with respect to a function of size. So function of size is nothing but will increase the number of pure clusters, and doped materials will be as it is, as we do in the case of fabrication while designing the IC. Like we fix the doped atoms and we increase the number of silicon, amount of silicon or amount of germanium. So same process we follow here also when we deal with the metallic clusters. So these metallic clusters play a very important role in building blocks of nanoscale devices. So mainly I will be focusing on metallic clusters like copper, silver, gold, right? Or these systems are actually known as coin age metals. And if you will see their electronic configuration, so these materials have electronic configurations of nd10 n plus 1 s. So this configuration actually provide very interesting property, and it change the complete physical and chemical properties of that whole system, especially if you will talk about electronic and optical properties of these metallic clusters. So these offers very high optical and electronic properties, which is useful for optoelectronic devices, for medical imaging, for DNA detection, it for solar cell, and mainly it is also used for surface enhanced Raman scattering. And in the case of photovoltaic devices, or you can say in solar cell, it acts as an catalyst. So bimetallic systems or bimetallic clusters are of interest nowadays because their properties are distinct from pure metals. Or you can say, if suppose I have a pure copper metals, right? So that will offer different property than if I will mix copper with gold or copper with silver. Okay, so when I will mix copper with silver and copper with gold, and same process will apply like we do for silicon doping, so their property is completely different, and it offers a great deal for nanoscale devices. So that is very important. So I have this lecture I have arranged in two parts mainly. First, I will focus on metallic clusters. In the second part, I will be also discussing little bit about the chalcopride type nanoclusters, which are of nowadays of very high interest, especially in solar cell and a storage system. So in terms of metallic cluster, first I have noted here like copper and gold nanoalloy cluster, right? So why these clusters is important? Because it offers very good plasma resonance, and it has been observed that the optical property which is offered by the CUAG system comes at the visual wavelength. So the most stable CUG clusters are energetically favored by mainly two driving forces. First is size mismatch, which leads to high surface segregation of the AG atoms. I told you in the beginning itself that when we go for multimetallic or bimetallic or trimetallic system, so when we do the mixing and especially at the nano scale, we need to take care about the surface to volume ratio because it plays very important role. And during fabrication, it has been observed that surface to volume ratio at nano scale is very high, so that it offers great deal of efficiency. Second driving force is electronic cell closure, which stabilizes the structure of the cluster. So this is very important. These two parameters are very important. Now, if we will talk about the cost, so production and characterization of these pure metallic clusters is actually includes very high cost in fabrication as well as in characterization also. Okay, because large experimental setup is required to compute the optical spectra as well as electronic spectra, or you can say electronic properties. However, there are various theoretical methodology are evolved nowadays which mainly focus to compute these spectra. Either you talk about IR spectra or Raman spectra, refractive index, magnetic properties, electronic property. We can calculate accurately based on various kind of theoretical methodology or various kind of simulation software. Okay, so what you can do is even experimentalists, they do not directly run for the experiment part. They first see the how theoretical parameters are compatible, and based on that theoretical parameter they are going for experimental part. So theoretical analysis, or you can say computational part, is very helpful in computing the physical and chemical properties of these clusters. So that is the important part. Second, we have that silver and gold nanolar cluster. So gold cluster, if you will study about the gold cluster, so it is very good material which offers very high optical properties. So gold is mainly used in electronic devices, especially in all kind of medical diagnosis devices. Because of first thing is it offers very good electronic as well as optical property, plus it is also a very good potential chemical catalyst due to SD hybridization, which is very strong, plus there is a very good relative, gold offers very good relativistic effect. So because of this, it offers very good, you can say, applications in solar cells, in medical imaging, plus it also have very good property in detection of cancer cells. Similarly, if we will talk about silver clusters, so silver clusters have important role in photography and catalysis. So it plays very important while if you are mixing silver and gold materials, they work very well, especially with medical imaging. Okay. Third in metallic clusters I have incorporated, that is copper and gold. So first I have mixed copper and silver. Second I have introduced, that is silver and gold. and third I have introduced is copper and gold nanalloy cluster. Okay, so the important feature of copper and gold is that the pure bulk metals have same crystal structure, and it also offer same melting temperature. Still, pure gold and copper clusters exhibit different physical as well as chemical properties. So with a suitable impurity property of gold, clusters can be tuned in a suitable fashion, or it mainly depends on the user, right? For certain applications we can specify the parameters, so we can tune the physical properties. So the properties of resultant clusters are dependent on factors like relative ionic radii, electron affinity, ionization potential. Gold clusters have potential technological applications. I think already you are aware that it being used in the fabrication of materials in nanotechnology, material science, biophysics, catalysis, and medicine. So copper gold clusters mainly used as a catalyst to enhance the reaction efficiency and selectivity. So I will be discussing little bit about the CuAu nanolayer clusters, CuAuN and CuNAu. Okay. So the second part of my lecture involves, or you can say it plays very important role for chalcopride type nanoclusters. So chalcoprite is a you can say system which consists of gallium, copper, and we have third atoms, that is either sulfur or selenium and tellurium. So if suppose we have this a structure, first is metal, either it is copper, gold or silver. Next we have as a gallium. So gallium can be replaced either with titanium or you can say iron, right? So that is also known as intermediate band. We'll discuss in the next slides. Okay, and next third atoms we have, that is either sulfur or selenium or tellurium. So if we have three these systems or three these atoms, that is that system itself is known as chalcoprite. So chalcoprite materials are having very good applications in solar cells, thin films, thermoelectric devices, plus in energy storage. Mainly it is useful for LEDs, photovoltaic, medical imaging, photocatalyst, because it offers very good electronic optical property, plus these properties are very much tunable. It can be tuned based on the applications. So that is why it is important. In recent years there are a number of research is going on, especially on chalcoprite type system. So it is very hot topic. So it is very important to learn about the intermediate band. If we are discussing about chalcoprite, or if we are discussing about the system which consists of or which is having applications in solar cells or in other medical devices or nano devices, so it is important to know what is intermediate band. So if you have learned about the normal physics, so when we have charge carriers or when we have free electrons, right? So if you will talk about semiconductor physics, so in the material there are two band which is very important. First is known as valence band and second is known as conduction band. So when the charge carriers flow from valence band to conduction band, it means it shows the conduction property or conduction behavior of that particular system. If there is no charge flow between valence band and conduction band, it means that particular system behaves as an insulator, and when due to some heat or due to some external voltage, if suppose electrons can move from valence band to the conduction band, it means that particular system is known as semiconductor. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any problem till now? You can interrupt in between if suppose you will have any issue. Okay. So the intermediate band is a band which can be introduced in between the valence band and conduction band. It means the flow of electrons, or you can say the charge carriers, will be from valence band to intermediate band and then intermediate band to the conduction band. So in that particular material or in the system, it will have two possibility to move the free electrons from valence band to the conduction band. First path will be directly, it can move from valence band to conduction band, and second possibility is to move from valence band to intermediate band and then from intermediate to the conduction band. Right? So these two possibilities have been designed. Now it depends on the system and based on the requirement that how many intermediate band can be introduced in between valence band and the conduction band. Okay, so that is why it is written that introducing an intermediate band or IB into the forbidden energy gap of host material allows the charge carriers to flow at various levels. So it is based on the requirement. I may introduce one intermediate band in between the forbidden energy gap, or based on the requirement, I may introduce a number of intermediate band. So it will help me in moving the electrons with very smooth path, right? So the movement of electrons occurs from the valence band to the intermediate band, from intermediate to conduction. Plus, it also offers direct movement of electrons, which is natural, from valence band to the conduction band. Now, question is, in the intermediate band, when we are introducing in between valence and conduction band, so which kind of material I have to use to introduce the intermediate band? So, through the various research, it has been found that transition metals is the best suitable candidate which can be introduced as an intermediate band, especially if suppose we are dealing with photovoltaic system, or if suppose we want to design solar cell material. So it is the best way that we have to use transition metals, especially either we can use as a gallium or we can use as a titanium. So initially researchers have shown that gallium is the best, right? Now with the recent research, it has been observed that if suppose we replace gallium with either titanium or you can say iron or some other transition metals like chromium, so that offers better efficiency of the system, right? So initially they have introduced gallium. Now this gallium is getting replaced with respect to the various transition metals. Like in molecular system, you can see here that CuGAsT, and substitution of titanium in place of gallium offers much better electronic and optical properties, and eventually if we are using titanium in place of gallium, efficiency of that solar cell is getting improved gradually. So with a large research, we have found that titanium and chromium, it produce a large amount of charge carriers in between the intermediate band, right? And it also offer high open circuit voltage. Especially chromium offer large spectrum of solar absorption, which is suitable for photovoltaic devices. So that is the reason that we replace gallium with transition metals. So doping of transition metals in copper-based chalcopyrite type material have been shown here, right? We have introduced a new system which is already, this work is already published in various papers, right? So here I have X, and X is copper, gold and silver, and gallium has been replaced with titanium, and Y I have used here for sulfur, selenium and tellurium. So this we have done it particularly for 3 systems, and all these are published in very high impact factor journals. First is published in material chemistry and physics. Second is published in thin solid films, and recently it has been accepted for material science and semiconductor processing with titanium. With iron, one paper got accepted in pure and applied chemistry. Okay, so these works are really wonderful. People can explore more about the chalcopyrite materials, and this is a hot topic nowadays. Now I told you that theoretical analysis and computational study is running parallelly with respect to the experimental part, as experimentalists also do not jump directly, as it includes a very high cost in fabrication as well as characterization, right? So now the question is, which kind of theoretical analysis and computational analysis can be helpful in determining the exact structure or in specifying the physical, or you can say electronic and optical properties? How I will get to know? So there are various methods available, right? So in that particular theoretical analysis, the first and very foremost, or you can say with accurate calculation provided by density functional theory method. So in the case of density functional theory, so all the parameters can be correlated with respect to the single parameter, that is density of the electron or density of the system. Okay, so this was actually given by the Nobel laureate Hohenberg and Cohen-Sam, right? And this theorem came into existence in 1964. So the Hohenberg and Cohen theorem tells the starting point of DFT, which is established with respect to the wave function of the ground state of an electronic system, which is a functional of the electronic density. So that is very important, and it is necessary only to know the density to calculate other physical and chemical properties of any system, right? And if you will see the papers in recent years, it has widely, you can say, there are a number of researchers, either you talk about from physics background or electronics engineers or material science or mechanical engineers or civil engineers, biophysics, they are widely accepted and they are working and publishing paper in very high impact journals with the help of density function theory methodology. Okay, so this is very, very important, this part. So this is about the methodology, that modeling and optimization is performed on computational software that is known as Gaussian. So there are various versions of Gaussian, 03, 09, 160. Okay, so there are 3. Recently they have released Gaussian 16, so that is also very good, and accuracy is very high. So mainly for this calculation I have used B3LYP. So B3LYP is nothing but it's a exchange correlation that is known as Baeke three parameter Li Yang Pa, that is based on the scientist which has discovered this basis set, exchange correlation. So there are three exchange correlation. First is known as local spin density approximation. Second is known as generalized gradient approximation, and third is known as hybrid functional. So hybrid functional consists of local as well as generalized. So hybrid offers very good efficiency. So mainly these metallic clusters work well with hybrid functional, and this is LANL to DZ is mainly basis set which offers good for metallic clusters. So exchange correlation functional B3LIP and basis set is suitable for metallic clusters as well as chalcopyrite type nanomaterial. So in the resultant discussion also I have divided into two parts. First mainly we'll discuss about the metallic clusters, and second part we'll discuss about the chalcopyrite type system. So before studying or before analyzing the computational part, first we have to do is we have to search for the material, right? We have to found the better material which have suitability in solar cells and optoelectronic devices. Like I told you that we'll go with CUAG, then AGAU, and then CUAU. Okay, so first we have optimized the geometry, and we have found first the lowest energy structure, or you can say the ground state configuration based on the energy, right? And based on the lowest energy structure, we need to calculate the low-lying isomers of the system. We'll see that how we have done it. So first I will just come to that system and will show you like this. So this is a ground state configuration of AGAU. So you can see here this is for n equal to 1. It means we have one AG and one AU. In the second case, as we are varying the gold atoms and we have fixed the number of silver atoms, that is 1. So in the second figure you can see that we have two gold atoms and third is AG. So this is the ground state configuration. There are other structures are possible like a linear structure, but energy of this system is very low. So this is the ground state configuration for n equal to 2. Similarly, this is for n equal to 3. This is for n equal to 4, like this. Okay. So for the CUAG, I have not incorporated the ground state structure as this presentation was getting too heavy. So I have not incorporated that. And after getting the ground state configuration, we have to calculate the electronic property of ground state configuration, and based on Koopman theorem, we have also found these parameters: electronegativity, hardness, softness, and electrophilicity and index. These parameters are known as density functional theory descriptors. Okay, so HOMO and LOMO. HOMO stands for highest occupied molecular orbital, and this is lowest unoccupied molecular orbital, and these calculations have been performed in the gaseous state. Okay, so if you will talk about in terms of orbital, so this is just, you can correlate with, this is nothing but your HOMO is conduction band and this is nothing but valence band. So the difference between valence band and conduction band is actually known as energy gap in terms of semiconductor physics. Similarly, in terms of orbital, the difference between highest occupied molecular orbital and lowest unoccupied molecular orbital is also known as energy gap in terms of orbital. Okay, so for CuNAg, here n is varying from n equal to 1 to 12. As you can see, the Ag is fixed here. We are not varying the Ag, we are just varying the Cu. And then we have calculated the homolomo gap, okay, for all these systems CuNAg. So you can see that homolomo energy gap is high for Cu5Ag. Okay, so Cu5Ag means there are 6 number of atoms here. Plus, it is also observed that suppose we have CuAg, so you can see here this is having high 3.055. When we are going for Cu2Ag, energy gap is getting reduced. But when we are going for Cu3Ag, again this energy gap is increasing, again it is getting reduced, increasing, again reduced, increasing, reduced, increasing, reduced, increasing, then reduced. So it is giving a even odd oscillation behavior. This homolomo gap is varying with respect to function of size. It means when the size of the cluster, this is odd, 1 plus 1, it becomes 2. So when it is even, homolomo energy gap is high. When the system is having odd number of atoms, so this is low. So you can see here, so it is offering interesting odd even alteration behavior. Now, with respect to the homolomo energy gap, it is, if you will see about the hardness, the system which is having high homolomo energy gap, hardness is also high. So it is experimentally proved that when a system is more compact, right, so it will be more hard. Hardness, these all parameters is mentioned in electron volt, right? So these all are in gaseous state. You have to very careful about the unit, that these all parameters are calculated in terms of electron volt. So you can see the system which is having high homolomo gap, it also having high hardness, and similarly it will have low softness. So these parameters, homolomo energy gap, molecular hardness and molecular softness, are interrelated. So system having high homolomo gap will have high hardness and will have least value of molecular softness. System having least value of homolomo gap will have least value of molecular hardness and high value of molecular softness. So for an example, you can see here that Cu12Ag is having least value of homolomo energy gap, and you can see here the hardness, molecular hardness is also least, but softness, molecular softness is very high. Similarly, we have also calculated the electronegativity and electrophilicity index, that also known as DFT based descriptors. So these all are descriptors actually. Okay. So similar thing has been mentioned here, which already we have discussed, that you can see the figure mentioned, graph mentioned at the right hand side. This is homolomo gap and this is with respect to number of Cu atoms. So this homolomo energy gap is offering odd even oscillation behavior, right? So these all has been displayed with respect to the function of size. The figure mentioned at the left hand side, right, this is a, you can say, correlation between homolomo energy gap and global softness, right? So this This is a linear correlation is drawn here. So linear correlation for R square we are getting around 0.89, right? And with respect to hardness it is approximately equal to 1. And for the analysis part, we have calculated the average bond length with the available computational part or computational papers, plus we have also compared with experimental bond length. So you can see here that for Ag2, the bond between Ag and Ag I have found as a 2.51 angstrom, and experimental bond length is 2.53, so it is very much compatible. Similarly, for Cu2 we have calculated at 2.18, and experimentally it is available at 2.22. Similarly, with respect to the theoretical paper that is based on Kabir scale, it has been compared, right? So if you will see the result, the stability of even numbered cluster is high with respect to the odd numbered cluster, because even number offers a closed electronic configuration which produces extra stability as compared to system with odd numbered cluster. And these nanolayer cluster possess enhanced chemical stability which can be suitable for building block of nano devices. If you will compare the bond length, so bond length follow the order as with respect to CuAg system, Ag and Ag bond length is high. Then we have moderate, that is Cu and Ag, and we have least band, you can say bond length with respect to Cu and Cu. Similarly, if we want to calculate or if you want to study about the relative stability, because relative stability provide very good idea about the energy stability of the system, right? So which is very helpful if you are exploring about electronic property. So we have incorporated here binding energy, fragmentation energy, and second order difference in energy of the bimetallic clusters. So these are the formula to calculate. This is for the calculation of pure cluster, pure metallic cluster. Like here I have incorporated Cu, but this also works well with gold and silver atoms. And this side, at the right hand side formula which I have mentioned here, this is useful for bimetallic, either it is CuAg or AgAu or CuAu. And this is the result which is compared with pure metallic cluster and bimetallic cluster. So you can see here this is CuN plus 1, this graph shows the CuN plus 1, and this graph shows bimetallic cluster CuNAg. This is for binding energy, this is for dissociation energy, and this graph is for second order difference in energy. So in the binding energy, you can see that there is a huge energy difference between pure copper and CuNAg, right? Similarly, you can see your second order difference in energy. They follow a odd even oscillation, or you can say odd even alteration. So binding energy of the lowest energy structure, or you can say ground state configuration of CuNAg, is much larger with respect to the corresponding pure copper cluster, which shows the impurity atom which is at this moment here we are using as a silver. It is enhancing the stability of pure copper. Similarly, the fragmentation and second order difference in energy show an interesting odd even oscillation behavior as a function of cluster size. These energies are highly sensitive quantity towards the structure and geometry of the nanolayer cluster, and they exhibit odd even oscillatory phenomena. So this is the value which is highest, or you can say maximum, with respect to this system CUN plus 1 and CUN AG. Maximum value of fragmentation is observed at n equal to 5, indicating that cluster CU6 with value 2.48 and CU5AG with value 2.67 possess maximum stability. Similarly, we have incorporated with respect to CUAGN, right? Initially, I have given you CUNAG, here it is CUAGN, and then you can compare that when we are wearing copper, what is the effect, when we are wearing silver, what is the effect. These all works are published. Now, the next thing what I have done is we have varied both CU and AG. So CUAGN n equal to 1 to 7, right? And then we have found that what is the result. Initially we have exchanged both, and then we are varying both the parameter. Initially we have fixed AG, in the second case we have fixed CU, and in the third case we are varying both the parameter CU and AG both, right? So this work is published in Journal of Nanoparticle Research. Similarly, we have studied about the AGAU, where we are varying the AU, right? And we have studied for all three, first neutral, then anion and cation also. So as time is very limited, I will skip all this because concept is same, right? And this is the comparison between experimental and computed parameter with respect to AGAU. So I will discuss something about the second part, that is chalcopride type nanocluster, as time is very limited. Okay. So chalcopride type nanocluster we have studied with the system X TiY2, X equal to copper, silver and gold, and Y we have here, that is sulfur, selenium and tellurium, right? So initially we have found the ground state configuration, and based on that we have moved forward. So these are the ground state configuration of CuTiS2. This is ground state configuration of CuTiSe2, and this is ground state configuration of CuTiTe2, right? S stands for a spin multiplicity here, and the third part which you can see here, CS, this is symmetry group. So this represents the symmetry group of this particular structure. So in this study we have computed the homolomo energy gap, molecular hardness, molecular softness, electronegativity, electrophilicity index and dipole moment of this system. So this is the actual scenario. So what we have done is we have computed the result and compared with the pure system. So first we have studied without introducing transition metal, and then we have studied with respect to the transition metals, because anybody may question that what is the role of transition metals, how you are identifying or how you are saying that introducing of transition metals in the intermediate band helps in enhancing the property. So this is the example without transition metal. So we do not have any kind of transition metal. You can see here CuS2, CuSe2, CuT2, then with respect to Ag, and then with respect to Au. Okay. So here also you can see that when we are moving from S to Ac to T, this homolomo energy gap, here you can say that 3.102, here 3.129, and here 2.884. Okay. So this is a comparison between without transition metal and with transition metal. So you can see the difference. CuS2, when we have incorporated Ti, it has become 2.620. Similarly, energy gap of CuSe2, you can see here 3.129, and after introduction of Ti, it become 2.250. For CuT2, here it is 2.884. After introduction of Ti, it came to 1.993. Similarly, with respect to Ag, here I have 1.224. Now it has increased to 2.8. AgAc, it is increased to 2.393. AgT2, there is a very slight change. Here we have 2.063, but here we have 2.0. Similarly, with respect to the AuS2, here we have 1.676. Here we have, there is a change in the homolomo energy gap. Here we have 2.940. There is a very huge difference is observed between AuSe2, where we found the energy gap is around 5.953, which is very huge, and in after introduction of Ti, it came to 2.565. Okay, so after introduction of Ti in the system, here you can see the homolomo energy gap is for one system. This is support for one system for CuTiX2, right? So you can see the energy gap is getting reduced when we are moving from S to T. For an example, you can see here for CuTiS2, we have here 2.620. For CuTiSe2, it came to 2.250, but for CuTiT2, it came to 1.993. Similarly, for Ag also, when we are moving from S to Se to Te, energy gap is getting reduced. Similarly, with respect to Au also, when we are moving from S to Se to Te, this is getting reduced. So, and there is one interesting feature here. Maximum homolomo energy gap is found with respect to the gold system for Au system. Second, moderate is for silver, and least one is found for the copper one. And that is certain because gold offer very good electronic as well as optical property due to their relativistic effect. So maximum is found for Au system, moderate is for Ag, and least is obtained for Cu. So this is very important observation. So I will suggest you to work or explore more about the metallic clusters and especially about the chalcopyrite cluster, because it is a very hot topic for research nowadays in solar cells. And this is the table which is providing the information about DFT based descriptors: hardness, softness, electronegativity, electrophilicity, dipole moment, and energy of doping. Energy of doping I have also mentioned here purposely just to get the idea that when we are introducing the titanium in the system as an intermediate band, so what is the effect? So this is just the conclusion for chalcopyrite type system, that compound AuTiS2 offers maximum value of energy gap plus molecular hardness, which display high electronic stability. Similarly, CuTiT2 offer least energy gap and hardness, and it shows the least stable system in this range, right? Maximum value of softness is observed for CuTiT2, whereas system AuTiS2 offer the minimum softness value, right? This is in terms of electronegativity. So maximum value of electronegativity is found for AgTiS2, whereas AuTiT2 provide the minimum value. And maximum value of electrophilicity index is found for CuTiS2 and minimum is found for AuTiT2. Similarly, in terms of dipole moment, so 1 dB is observed for AgTiS2 and other compounds have dipole moment more than 1 dB, right? So this is just for your information that to calculate the energy of doping which is mentioned in that table, right? So first we have calculated energy with Ti atom minus energy without Ti atom. Okay, so this is the important observation that energy of doping also increases from S to Ac to T. Similarly, energy gap also decreasing from S to Ac to T, right? So this is just the conclusion, and time is running very short, right? So thank you for your patience, and I will be happy to answer your query if you have any.
Sir, I have an query, sir.
Yeah, please tell me.
Sir, in our micro SD card, which type of clusters we have seen?
So if you will talk about actual application, so it mainly depends on that particular system, or mainly it depends on if you will talk about the microchip SD card you are asking about, right?
Yes, sir.
So it is not about the metallic cluster, it is about the silicon, because that is has been fabricated with the help of MEMS device. So it does not have any kind of metallic clusters. It is having silicon crystal,
Okay, sir.
because that is IC integrated chip.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so I, on behalf of DG Saksham, would like to thank Dr. Prabhat Ranjan sir for his guidance, and thank you each and everyone for attending this webinar. I'm sure everyone has got to learn a new thing today, which would definitely help them in future. Thank you everyone, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event as well.
Okay, thank you, Aditi, and I would like to thank DGCAM for providing this platform for youngsters to learn about the new technology and new applications. So it is really helpful. So I would like to say wish you all the best, Aditi, for your this journey and for your organization.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.